I hope you feel talkative tonight. I have to tell you, this is the strangest story. I went to a grand opening for a bar a couple of years ago. Then they had those big chafing dishes, you know, the ones that they put the sterno under. And I had the peppers and onions. And went home and got sick as a dog. Last night, I went to the grand opening of a bar. And they had the chafing dishes with all the food in it. And afterwards, after I'd eaten a huge plate of, guess what? Peppers and onions and sausage. And apparently sausage is the big bad one, I guess. The hostess said, yeah, she goes, the food was made the night before. So they were supposed to reheat it all thoroughly and then put it in the chafing dishes so it'd stay hot. They just took the food and put the sterno underneath the food, apparently, and so nothing was hot. So apparently what it does, I mean, unless it's just me and I don't get along with peppers and onions and sausage, apparently it sits there like a big Petri dish and gets up to about, I don't know, 110 degrees, and just sits there and bubbles and makes bacteria. And I went home last night and got sick as a dog. So like I say, I hope you're feeling talkative this evening. I'm actually quite glad, considering the way I feel, that it is only a 2-hour program. Luckily, I could feel it coming. And I'm not going to go into details, it's just gross, but, you know, make yourself sick. That way it doesn't travel all through your system. And you know how I knew exactly what that feeling was? Because about 2 years ago, at the grand opening of another bar, there I was eating the same damn thing. But that one I let get to me. When I'd fallen asleep, and a few hours later, it woke me up. And I was in bed for a solid 18 hours. This one, I think I got around it a little bit. Is this news? No, I got news coming up, and just seems to me that it's a warning to people, if you're going to parties, be careful what you eat. Because I guess if you don't thoroughly warm something up, it's just going to sit there and bubble and make bacteria and make you sick as a dog, which is how I felt. Wow, noisy chair in here. Things in the news, open phones this evening, nothing that pressing. Did you watch Meet the Press? It was interesting. They had Richard Clarke on, talking to Tim Russert about his new book. You know, because he was involved in counterterrorism under Clinton and Bush. And when quizzed, they said, well, are you saying that Clinton did more than Bush? He said, well, at least under Clinton, when they had suspected terrorist attacks like the USS Cole, Clinton was bombing things. It didn't fix the problem, but at least he did something. He said President Bush did absolutely nothing to counteract terrorism until 9/11 happened. And then when asked about the book and the timing of it, why is it coming out now during the 9/11 Commission investigation? He said, well, the book had to be approved by the White House. So he gave the book to the White House, and they took out anything that they thought was classified. And they didn't give it back until the beginning of March. So, thusly, it takes time to get the book out. Essentially, he was blaming the White House for when the book came out. They asked him if he voted for President Bush the last time. He said he did not. They asked him if he was going to vote for John Kerry this go around, and Mr. Clarke said, none of your business who I'm going to vote for. So I thought that was interesting. He said he will not stand behind Kerry and, you know, say he should be our next president, because that's not the goal of the book. And I guess apparently Tim Russert didn't read the book. Now, that was his only guest for a whole hour on Meet the Press. He had all week. Couldn't he have read the book? And apparently Richard Clarke knew he didn't read the book, because if you saw the program this morning, he said to him 4 times easily, read the book. Well, what about this? What about that? Read the book. And anything that's in the book was approved by the White House. They may not be happy about the content. And I don't know if it's sour grapes or not. Richard Clarke said he had no interest whatsoever in getting into politics ever again. He was involved in government work for 30 years, and 30 years was plenty. This is interesting. Bob, you're a chef?
Yeah, Gilly, what's going on?
Well, you were going to tell me how I got food poisoning?
Well, not like, I'm not going to break it down medically. But,
right.
There's danger zone temperatures, which most people don't know about. It's between 40 and 140 degrees. And when people throw that crap out in those shaping dishes, it is a petri dish. That's exactly what it is.
Well, especially if the food was not reheated thoroughly beforehand and then even put in the dish, it was just warmed up in the dish.
That's the worst thing possible. You have to bring the food up to temperature first and then put it out there. If you don't, it sits in that danger zone temperature between, again, 40 and 140 for like 5 hours, and basically bacteria has a party.
Well, there were a lot of people at that party, and I bump into a lot of them, and I'll find out, I guess, whether it's my constitution or whether other people got ill as well. But
yeah, hopefully you didn't bump into them in the line for the bathroom.
No, well, like I said, everything waited until I got home. And then there were other... See, that
it takes 6 to 8 hours for foodborne illness to set in.
Well, I could, I'm trying to do the math because you're probably about right. It was probably pretty close to 6 hours.
They say most people that have stomach flu, 60% of those cases in the United States are foodborne illness, not stomach flu.
Well,
more people get sick in this country on potato salad and coleslaw than they do on chicken.
Really?
Yeah, because it sits out all day.
Now, see,
in the sun, you go, I have some potato salad. I got a few. The next thing you know, you drop your large intestine in the bowl.
Wow. Well, I had also heard, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but they said that actually foods with mayonnaise or that sort of salad dressing in them, there's preservatives in the mayonnaise, and that they'll last outside longer than you think. What with the picnic seasons approaching and that sort of thing, I always tried to keep my potato salad on ice. But I guess you got to be careful if you're warming food up and it just slowly... Boy, it would cruise right through that zone, wouldn't it? Take food out of the refrigerator, where it's 30 degrees, and then put sterno underneath it and let it slowly cruise through that danger zone of 40 to 140. And just sit there and bubble and cook. And it'll be bubbling and cooking inside you. Like I say, I'll find out if it was my constitution or whether or not... boy, when you have something like that happen before, you just kind of know the feeling that you know you're not well. And there were other people that had been at the party longer than I have that apparently were not well at the party. So I don't know, I'll find out. I'm not even going to mention where it was because it was a fine time. It was just the mistake of someone in the kitchen that apparently didn't feel that they had to reheat food, which is, I guess, a pretty bad idea. Jeff, you're on the air.
Good evening, sir.
Evening.
It's such a pleasure to be getting out here with you.
Well, thank you.
You know what I find to be interesting is that if the White House, proofread the book before, Clarke put it out, had it published, if there was anything slanderous in it then, why didn't Bush come at him for being slandering his name? Why isn't Bush trying to get him for slandering his name now, by putting this book out in public? That's what I want to know.
That's an interesting thought, and also he had a handwritten note. It was not a form letter. He had a handwritten note that he read that was from George Bush when he resigned that said, "Thank you so much for the service. You've been great, blah, blah, blah."
Yeah, and I just want to mention a few other things to get off your way, is that I watched one of his commercials where he blamed Kerry for, voting to raise the gasoline taxes to 50 cents a gallon. Well, what's Bush doing now? He's in office. Look what the gas prices are now.
Yeah, gas prices are getting pretty high.
Don't be pointing fingers. It makes him look bad by bringing stuff up like that. Number 3, have you ever heard of a guy named Vince Wilnick?
No.
Well, he used to play keyboards for the Grateful Dead. I got him doing a show for me. I won't say where, but I got him coming in.
Oh, all right, Jeff.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you're more than welcome. Drivers in Honolulu might see some relief at the pump. A new law setting a maximum gas price set to go in effect in Hawaii July 1st. Couldn't we have that everywhere? Couldn't we have that all over the place? Went through the Hawaii legislature 2 years ago. even before the prices started going through the roof. Hawaii routinely sees pump prices between 20 and 50 cents above the national average. Well, they kind of are out in the middle of nowhere, aren't they? I guess when you live on a tropical island, sometimes there's a price to pay. And you know what's funny about, I heard Hawaii, they love you if you want to come visit. I don't know, they have some disparaging term for mainlanders. They don't want you, they're like the French, I guess. They don't want you to stay. Be the 11th caller. Well, Patty, use your best judgment. Blow it out. We got what, 3 pairs of passes? 3 4-packs? Yeah, just blow them out. 11th, 12th, 13th caller right now. Just do it that way. And win 4 packs of tickets to the WTAM advanced screening of Hellboy. I don't know what Hellboy's about, but you can get your chance to go see that Thursday on the 1st of April at Cinemark Valley View. And it's not an April Fool's joke. We really are giving away tickets. And I want you to arrive early. Seating's limited and on a first-come, first-served basis. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 Chief Meteorologist Mark Nolan. Tonight, rain showers possible out there. 46 tomorrow, rain, thunder, springtime. High of 59. Let's look ahead, shall we? Sure. Tuesday, a high of 52. Currently 64 degrees in Cleveland. 64 degrees. Speaking of April 1st, listen, beginning April 1st, and we're not kidding here either, we'll be giving away $100,000 every weekday for a month. Just write down this number. Remember this number, beginning April 1st, 1-866-525-WINS. That's 1-866-525-9467. It's the Big One's Cash Snatch on News Radio, WTAM 1100. He said cash. Well. John, you're on the air.
Yes, Gilly.
Yes.
Hey, listen, when the man was asking about that Dick Clarke book and why the White House didn't stop him, if there's something slanderous in there.
Right.
My understanding of it is that when someone writes a book that's been in the administration and gives it to the attorneys of the White House just look to make sure that there's no secrets that they're giving away or any important, critical information of that nature. They don't care what the person writes necessarily. I mean, they can't do anything about that. All they want to make sure is that he's not giving any secrets away.
Yeah, and I would
the book can still come out.
Yeah, I would think that when you write a book, you're not the only person that read it.
Right.
So you could prove by having copies of it, if they gave it back and said, you can't say this, can't say that, publishing would be like, what do you mean you can't say this, or it is America?
Right.
Right, like you said, certain classified things you couldn't say.
Yeah, and that's all the White House attorneys look for, is to make sure there's no classified information, and then Clarke could write whatever he wants. And now that it's out in the open, they couldn't stop him from publishing that book. That's all I want to say to clear that up.
All right, it did seem convenient, the timing of the book, coming out right during the 9/11 investigations to see what's going on. And even Dick Clarke sat there. No, not the guy from American Bandstand, Richard Clarke. And he said there were no weapons of mass destruction. And he said the problem with going to Iraq was that instead of getting rid of Osama bin Laden, which is at least what Clinton tried to do by bombing villages where he thought that Osama might have been, he says now you go into Iraq and you've created 100 little tiny Osama bin Ladens. He said when you look around the world, countries like Morocco, Libya, different places, he says, it seems the latest polls are 90% of the people that live in those countries hate Americans, just hate Americans. He says, how can you get anything accomplished with that sort of thing going on? Joe, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick Gilly, how you doing, buddy?
All right.
Listen, you have problems about your diarrhea? You have problems
No, sir. No, I have problems with ladybugs. I see up here on the big board you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I do. We got real problems with this. How are we going to solve this problem with these ladybugs?
I don't know. I was talking to my mother about a week ago about that kind of thing came up. I guess there's ladybugs in their attic, and they can't seem to get rid of them. And I was down here playing on the computer, and I look, and there's a ladybug walking across the cord. And I'm like, because you don't expect to see any bugs down here at all. And so it was a little... And they're not really real ladybugs. There's some sort of bug that was brought in from China that when you squish them, they stink, and they'll sting you, and they're nasty little things. They just happen to look like ladybugs.
Well, besides that, now we're talking about bringing birds in from China to eat them.
Well, good, then they'll bring bird flu in with the birds.
Exactly.
See, this is why we need an isolationist society. Close our borders. We got bugs coming in from China, then they're bringing birds in from China. They'll bring bird flu in from China. You know, if China fell off the earth, unless you saw it on CNN, would you know? I mean, more and more now, you won't be able to get your Buick engines or something, whatever they're building over there. But if some of the countries in the world just fell off the earth and there was a huge tidal wave and now they're under the ocean, would you even know? I hate to put it that way, but no other way to put it. Dave, talk to me.
Hey, I got a couple of things. First off, that guy that called was crying about the price of gas. That ought to make the libs real happy. Actually, they're the ones that say we should have prices like they have in Europe.
Well, I've heard people say that. They think they'd be happy if we had $3 a gallon.
Oh, you'd think so. And the other thing, I'm a conservative in fiscal, but I'm a little more liberal with my policy. I'd like to see a little more money spent here. But I can't vote for Kerry, man, and I don't want to vote for the other, but I've got no choice. I want to find out where Kerry got his awards. This guy's coming across like a Vietnam hero, and all of a sudden this is important. Well, when Clinton was protesting the war, it wasn't important, and Kerry was in country 4 months. 4 months. I'd like to know how he got the awards. I have an idea. It was probably at a card game.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've got some information about, let me see. I thought I had Mr. Bush's resume. I thought I had John Kerry's resume as well. Apparently, I just have Mr. Bush's resume. Oh, well, so much for that. But, yeah, well, I don't know where he got his awards. And I'm a registered Democrat, but I voted for Bush last go-round. And
I did, too.
From what I've heard from even veterans about Kerry is they weren't real pleased even if he did have a bunch of ribbons and medals, because apparently he burned them and threw them all away when he was a member of Vietnam Veterans Against the War.
Yeah, I had more respect for Dean. Dean came out, at least you knew what he was. He was liberal. He was proud of it. It wasn't a dirty word. And it's just very shame with Clarke, too, coming out with the book. It's not to influence the politics. Please, come on.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, too. I mean, it seems to me that the timing was just a little difficult to believe that it had nothing to do with influencing politics. However, he said he was not a big supporter of Kerry, and he would not throw his support behind Kerry. Well, it looks like we're not going to have much of a choice if you want to vote liberal now, is there? I mean, unless you want to throw away your vote for somebody like Ralph Nader. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend, and this is Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
Rick Gilmour.
You poked the thing through or you didn't poke the thing through, okay? Pokey.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Well, what do you think? Was Richard Clarke's book timed to come out to influence the political scene? Well, he claims it wasn't. Of course, then if you didn't see Meet the Press this morning, if you read today's paper, there was an article in there that said a friend of Dick Clarke's, not from American Bandstand, the other Dick Clarke, they said he must have been really upset and angry for him to go public with this sort of thing because he's not the kind of guy that goes out there swinging. He seemed very level-headed. I'm not good enough to read people's eyes. Apparently, cops say you can tell by looking at someone if they look up or they look down or they look right or they're looking to the creative side of their brain. Are you familiar with that? Help me out. I'm not certain. But you can tell by looking at someone whether or not they're lying to you. I suppose anything's possible. For those of you who are wondering, I gave away some passes to Hellboy. Apparently, when a Nazi mystical experiment goes awry in 1944, the target of the wizard's spell, the child of Satan, Hellboy, is wrenched from his home and adopted by the U.S. agents who intercept his arrival, raised as a force of good. Hellboy grows up to be a full-fledged demon in the form of a man, complete with fierce red skin, a tail, and a giant armored glove, and 2 large circles where his horns should be. If they ever grow back, Hellboy is quick to break them off. That's interesting. Now, the adult Hellboy, an investigator of the paranormal, is sent on a mission that brings him back in touch with the evil genius that started it all, that Nazi wizard. And who is he anyway? Well, sounds like an interesting film. Doug, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, how's it going, buddy?
Recovering from, I believe, a case of food poisoning last night, but...
Where'd you eat?
What?
I want to make sure I don't go there.
Well, no, I see, and I didn't want to name the place because it was a very nice place. It was a mistake made by the kitchen help that they brought food out that was prepared the night before out of the refrigerator and then put it straight into the chafing dishes to let it warm up, from that 40 to 140 degree range where it sits there like a petri dish.
Oh, my God.
Second time in 2 years that I've gone to a grand opening at a bar and had sausage and peppers and onions And it made me ill. Third time's the charm, huh? I guess I'm staying away from sausage and peppers and onions.
I think I'm staying away from sausage, peppers, and onions now.
Like I say, I don't want to name the place because it was it wasn't a mistake made by the help, but it was.
Right.
I wasn't informed of it until after I'd had a huge plate of food, and I kept thinking, oh boy, I hope this don't happen. And I don't think it was the power of negative thought.
No.
I'm fairly certain what happened. Well, I'll find out if other people got sick as well, and if not, maybe it was just me.
Yeah, let's hope not. Hey, quick comment on the gasoline prices. I mean, those are basically reigned by the environmental regulations in each region. Something happened last summer in, I believe, Arizona, where they had a pipeline go down, and then one of the refineries that feed that pipeline also suffered an outage. So, I mean, that blend or boutique of gasoline that they used was in, short supply. Their gas prices went through the ceiling, plus the fact that their supply was so low, that was a crunch at the pump.
Right.
That's the problem. I think we need to, if we're going to do this stupid environmental regulations for boutique gasolines, we need to have it across the board, the same gasoline, so every refinery can set up for that type of gasoline and stay there and quit, wintertime we're going to make this gas, and then we got to go on a 3 or 4 week outage to convert the, system over to make this gas for the summer. I mean, that's where we're seeing the crunch right now is this outage time that these, refineries are down. I mean, they're not at full capacity, but once they get up to full capacity, they got to make this, specialized gas that's only intended for certain regions, and it's a damn shame if you ask me.
What I thought was interesting is I live on the south side, or as they call it now, Tremont, and there's 3 gas stations at 14th and Clarke, and I was going to fill up. And I thought, it's getting home. I'm getting home late. I don't feel like it. I'll do it tomorrow, whatever day it was. Some day last week, and it was $1.63.9. The next day, it's $1.79. Then the next 2 days later, or whatever, it was back to $1.68. I'm like, what's going on here? How can it go up almost 20 cents, whatever, and then drop back down 10? And it seems willy-nilly. I can't put my finger on it. You would think that they'd have the same gas in the tanks from 2 days before, because who's buying it at $1.79? They may as well just wait a couple days, but I couldn't wait, so I only put in a few bucks because I figured I'll hedge my bets and take my chances. That's a little advice for people out there that have a car with an electric fuel pump in the tank, which is a lot of vehicles. Don't run it below quarter tank, because that electric pump is running the entire time the car is running, and guess what keeps it cool? Gasoline.
Huh.
So you start running, you start running the thing below quarter tank on a regular basis. I talked to a guy who had a car just like mine, and he says, only problem I ever had was the electric fuel pump went out. I says, did you keep the tank full? He says, well, I couldn't afford that. I says, did you keep it below quarter tank? He says, most of the time. I says, what did you expect? So it just can't keep the little motor cool, and anyway.
Hey, real quick, we talk about all these different issues and these different. Politics sometimes drives me absolutely nuts because they're all a bunch of little brats. But if you look at the big picture, in my mind, the big picture is terrorists getting over into this country again and creating some major damage. And, everything be damned if that happens again. I mean, we're not talking about these environmental prices or these gas prices and environmental rules, and we're not talking about Dick Clarke, his book that's coming out. We're talking again about the safety of the country, and if we allow ourselves to let our guard down, we're that stupid. We're the ones that have basically allowed ourselves to do that. So I mean, that should be first and foremost in our agenda, is to shut these people down for good.
Did you watch Meet the Press?
No, sir, I didn't.
He even came out at some point. Dick Clarke even came out, and I thought, here's where. You wonder whether it's sour grapes or not, because he came out and said something to the effect of, there may be another terrorist attack before the elections, even if it's manufactured.
Yeah. What? That's nuts.
Well, there were folks that say, well, Bush knew something was going to happen before it happened and did nothing.
Yeah. I mean, you can go all the way back. Did they know about the coal before it happened? No. I mean, someone probably did, but, unless it happens, you can't do anything about it. I mean, just like Bush couldn't have gone to Afghanistan, had he known that they were going to fly a plane into the World Trade Center. You kidding me? The UN would have probably declared war on the United States for...
well, wait a minute.
For a preemptive strike.
Well, what did we do in Iraq?
Well, we're shutting down the terror network in Iraq.
Oh, but that was
There's a lot of money that comes out of Iraq and fees. Look at Saddam was writing $25,000 checks to the families of suicide bombers. if that's not supporting terrorism, I don't know what is. I mean, if I was writing $25,000 checks to Timothy McVeigh, wannabe helpers, do you think I'm going to be in jail? Yeah, of course. I mean, you can't allow people to, do that type of funding to terrorists. I mean, you're feeding the fire.
Well, let's hope that Clarke was wrong when he said all we did by going to Iraq is create 100 little Osama bin Ladens.
I honestly, you're right. I hope not.
Because people over there hate our guts now.
Yeah, but they've always hated our guts.
I mean, I was thinking about this earlier. I was thinking, do you suppose that the people who live in Iraq look at the U.S. as that was a terrorist attack by going into their country before they had, as a preemptive strike?
Good question.
Because if that happened here, oh my God, right? That would be horrible, and it would be terror. Right. But if we do it without a UN coalition, then it's not terror.
Yeah.
It's cleaning up the world because of the Marshall Plan and everything that says we're supposed to police force the world. And
right.
I don't know.
You're right. It's a great talking. It's a great discussion, and it's going to go on. But until we end it, until we stop it from happening, and in my opinion, that's to be preemptive, to go after it before it happens instead of the reactionary. We got to be proactive in the whole situation.
Here's the problem I have is that I've spoken with people, even people that were in the military, and a lot of them said they were all for going to Iraq, and now a year later they don't think it was such a good idea. And every one of them, I bring up the game of risk.
Yeah.
And they already believe that we're spread too thin.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we got 38,000 troops we could pull out of South Korea. We got how many thousands of troops in Germany? We got how many thousands of troops in Japan? Yep. I mean, if we're going to go around the world with these little adventures in the name of getting rid of Al-Qaeda and getting rid of terror, well, then maybe we don't need troops. I mean, why do we need troops in South Korea?
I think it's a financial package. I mean, look at the money that we're bringing into Korea just from having our base there. I mean, plus it's a pretty good deterrent for the North Koreans.
Did you hear that caller earlier talking about this infestation of ladybugs?
Barely, yes.
Yeah, well,
that was pretty good.
I just looked down and there was one on my paperwork. I'm like, I mean, you just don't expect when you're at work to see ladybugs crawling around.
They are actually the same species, but they're kind of like a different race.
They're like nasty or something, I mean,
little buggers bite. I was like, it's like, ow, what the hell?
Yeah, and if you squish them, they stink.
Yeah, and stain everything. So, they're the damn little buggers.
Yep. Well, we'll get rid of them.
We got to come up with something. There's got to be something out there to eat them, and then we'll have a problem with that thing.
Well, yeah, they're going to bring in birds from China to get rid of the Chinese ladybugs, and then they'll bring us Chinese bird flus, and then we'll.
Hey, you know what? You brought up a good point. Maybe that's where the West Nile virus came from. It never really came from these birds. It's brought in by these Chinese ladybugs.
There you go, Chinese ladybugs. Chinese ladybugs be damned. More of the program after we do a little business with you here on News Radio, WTAM 1100.
TAM 1100.
Well, Open Phones America taking you up to 10 o'clock when you'll hear the Drudge Report live here on the big one. Tomorrow morning, listen to win tickets to a concert of your choice at Tower City Amphitheater and qualify to win a Victory Vegas motorcycle. The guests include Senator George Voinovich, King George V, the man who pulls the strings behind Governor Bob the Jellyfish Taft. Wake up informed with Wills and Coleman in the morning, would you? Weekdays from 5 until 9 here on News Radio, WTAM 1100. Your triple Doppler forecast from TV3 Chief Meteorologist Mark Nolan. Tonight, some rain showers starting up, low of 46, currently 64 degrees in Cleveland, 64. Tomorrow, more rain with a high of 59. Lots of issues on the table. I'm talking a little about Iraq and talking about Richard Clarke's book and how he was on Meet the Press. And, well, he seemed like a level-headed kind of guy, but he did have his digs in there about whether or not there was any correlation between 9/11, which I've been saying for how long now? Was there any correlation between 9/11 and Iraq? They're finding more and more and more. I don't know if that means there necessarily was or wasn't, but they seem to be finding more and more. Who are you going to vote for if you're not a big Bush fan? I'm not a big John Kerry fan. Jake.
What up, G?
You're in West Virginia. You're not in Pennsylvania.
Nope, I'm in West by God, Virginia.
Whereabouts you at down there?
Down the street from Wheeling, down New Martins.
New Martins what?
New Martinsville.
Oh, you broke up there. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm kind of sad because I broke up.
Well, all we lost was the Ville part of New Martin. No.
It's an important part, though.
Okay.
That's the only thing. Yeah, the election, and boy, don't I get everybody saying you're going to throw away your vote, when you vote for somebody else.
You mean like a vote for Nader?
I don't know, vote for somebody like Mr. Nader so he can bring up the questions that don't get asked, bring up the ideas that don't get talked about. I don't agree with Ralph Nader, and I don't believe you do either. However, if we got Bush and Kerry standing there at the end of the day, or just change the names to Dole and Clinton, it's the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, they're so together on so many issues. We had the hatred of Clinton, now we have the hatred of Bush, yet they do the same thing. And if any moron thinks Kerry's going to be any different, it's laughable.
Well, Jake, they claim that actually there are more special interests in John Kerry's pocket than in President Bush's.
Well, I think he got more money. I mean, where his house is. They actually had it on one of the NPR shows the other day about how Mr. Kerry got the fire hydrant removed from in front of his house. In the beautiful, picturesque brownstone area that he lives in Boston. Yeah, he gets the fire hydrant removed and put down the street because they couldn't park their car there. Teresa Hines, Terry, whatever, who's she going to be next? But it's really sad that we've gotten to this state. I told your fine producer there that I think I'm going to be writing in a candidate. Maybe a Ron Paul, somebody who actually tries to do stuff, and never gets any recognition. He himself had to go back to the Republican Party to get elected. He's a representative down in Texas. There's a couple people that are trying to do something, but you never hear from them, and it looks like you never will.
The fundamental problem that the Democrats have is that they're not saying, like you said, they're not saying anything enough different from the Republicans to try and make it worth voting that direction.
Is it insane that we, being the Republicans and Democrats, kicked Howard Dean? I don't like Howard Dean. Maybe he was a little better than Kerry. I mean, for everybody, for the Democrats and Republicans. But is it ridiculous? This yell he did was on every stinking talk show, was on every television show you ever seen. They went back and redid Leave It to Beaver to make fun of Howard Dean and his scream at the speech. But seriously, is that the most horrible thing that anybody said or done? Was that enough to get him kicked out of the race?
Apparently so. Apparently,
I mean, here's to you and to your listeners. I mean, what the heck? The guy's excited. I'm glad he's excited. Well, he's saying that he's different from the morons that are going to get elected.
Jake, I think the problem is that in the future we will find the candidates, their electability hinges completely on their appearance, that sort of thing. Is he a nice-looking guy? We'll vote for him.
Is Sean Kerry a nice-looking guy?
I don't think so, but do you think Abe Lincoln would have gotten elected nowadays, or William Howard Taft, or
no.
General Grant, or, there was some goofy-looking, probably Martin Van Buren or Millard Fillmore. I mean, there were some goofy-looking people.
Watch it with the Fillmore thing.
Would you have
Henry Harrison was scary. He was scary.
What about FDR? We're going to elect a president that can't walk? That'd be horrible. We wouldn't elect Bob Dole because, remember, Bob Dole with his withered hand, and then he was going to die before his term would be up. Well, gee, he could have had 2 terms by now.
Well, he got Viagra going in this corner. Well, I just think we need somebody. What Ralph Nader said on Press the Meet, that one.
Meet the Press, yeah.
Meet the Press was wonderful. It was a beautiful thing. It should be on everybody's lips. Everybody should be saying what he said because he was exactly right. I don't agree with all of his politics. I probably don't agree with most of it. But you know what? It might end up just to keep a voice out there, to keep somebody getting that percentage of the vote so they can be in the debates or something. I think we need to get behind somebody like him, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat.
Well, yeah,
progressive. I hear the progressive people going, yeah, well, we just got to get rid of Bush. You know what? That's real progressive. Let's pick somebody we don't really like, and that is going to do the same thing as Bush, just to get rid of Bush. It's getting bad, dude.
Yep, absolutely. Got to run.
Thank you, sir.
You're more than welcome. Mark, you're on the air.
Hello.
Howdy.
Oh, pretty good. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Welcome.
Okay. The one thing this guy's talking about, though, is it kind of bugs me, just the way, we got two parties, and it's almost like a two-party dictatorship.
Yeah. Hold that thought, would you?
Okay.
That music means we're up on the news. Yeah, that is something worthy of commenting on. And essentially, in some regards, this whole two-party system is becoming nothing more than, rooting for one football team or the other. It's a diversion, it's a distraction while they both steal with both hands. More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend, and this is Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. Toll-free 888-723-WTAM. I remind you, if you didn't tune in last hour, stay away from food and chafing dishes. It slowly warms up like Petri dishes. They'll come back and get you. They did me. Right, big voice man?
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
Maybe it was just me. Maybe I need to stay away from big parties with chafing dishes filled with Italian sausage, peppers, and onions. Maybe Italian sausage, peppers, and onions and beer doesn't mix. Maybe that's the problem. If nobody else got sick at this big party, then I should have had the chicken. You get home and you don't feel well, and then you think, gee, it's like watching Airplane, or whatever, one of those, Airport 76. Uh-oh, they had the chicken, or the fish. Which one's going to get sick and which ones aren't, and then I'll have to learn how to fly the plane in.
It was the peppers.
Was it the peppers?
I think so.
Boy, I'll tell you, they didn't last long.
Oh, my,
And that's the second time in 2 years that's happened to me at a big party for a grand opening of a place, and it's always sausage and peppers and onions.
That's a little more than I wanted to know.
Oh, well, I know. I'm trying to warn people, because if that food sits around and warms up slowly and is not piping hot and past 140 degrees, it'll be, it can just sit there and grow bacteria. I'm hoping it was just me.
Oh, it was...
No, I'm secretly hoping 100 people got sick.
I was at a party, and the one guy was so proud he made was a pasta fazool. And I got terribly sick afterwards.
What exactly is pasta fazool? I'm not a big pasta guy.
It's some kind of soup.
Oh, I know. It's like got beans. It's kind of like minestrone.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, and that made you ill.
Oh, yes, it did.
Yeah, because wow, maybe what it is people have to be careful when they go to these parties, unless they're professionally catered. Some folks just don't know the proper how to handle food regulation and rules and all that sort of thing.
Oh, I know that. What I did want to say, though, is you're not on enough anymore.
Oh, well,
I don't know why, but, if powers that be at WTAM should put you on a little more. Enjoy your show.
Well, thank you. I think it's a secret plot. No, I have no idea. What you did mention before the break...
Okay, about...
our two-party dictatorship.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, like I was saying before the break, it seems almost diversionary, like watching sporting events, and you get to a certain age where I guess you just become jaded and bitter, and I sit around and look at both these people and go, we just really don't have a proper choice. I'm not happy with either choice, but there's a lot of money in it, apparently, and not that much money if you get into office. But a lot of money changes hands to put people into office.
Oh, yeah. With politics, I find that, and also, how should I say, a lot of the media has a lot to do with it. As side work, I do little fixer-uppers.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a house, and it was actually East Cleveland. You go up in the old Rockefeller area, East Cleveland, it's beautiful. It's wonderful up there.
Right.
You think of, people say East Cleveland, they think, all this... All of a sudden, you're doing this typecasting of a ghetto.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that.
And, I found that out. It's just like, why don't you just say the nice things about some of the areas, that you talk about? You just want to beat on East Cleveland.
Well, why don't they just call the Rockefeller area Cleveland Heights West?
That's about it. Yeah, it is. I thought it was the Heights.
I mean, if the houses are that nice, then you just change the name to some new suburb, and then people won't know the difference. And the problem is...
Put a new mayor in.
Yeah, well, the problem is that that people are still going to think that way. They're still going to think East Cleveland. Maybe East Cleveland just needs to change their name. Until we break that mold of stereotyping.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, maybe it's not the neighborhoods that need to change as well. The neighborhoods need to change too, but because there are some beautiful homes. Well, there's some beautiful homes on Buckeye and Kinsman, and they're not worth anything because the neighborhood's not very nice.
Exactly.
I mean, I've seen houses where I thought, geez. I looked at a house in West Park, and I thought, boy, if that house were in Westlake, it wouldn't be $58,000. It'd be $158,000.
Yeah.
And taxes are cheaper in West Park and all that, but apparently...
West Park is not that bad either.
I know, and I should have bought it because I could have made some money on it, but I didn't. And that was a weird thing. You ever do that? You ever make an offer on a house?
Yeah.
Well, they wanted 58. So I offered them, 52? No, they wouldn't take that. So this has been a few years ago. And they waited, and that house was on the market for about 6 months, and they sold it for 53. And I'm thinking, you should have taken the 52. And instead of leaving the thing sit around there, and you got to heat it, you got to pay the taxes on it, you got to. What was $1,000? I did another one of them where I offered someone before they went to a real estate agent. I think 68 for a house that they ended up selling for 71. And I thought, well, they probably gave $3,500 to the real estate company. So they're actually in the hole or barely ahead.
Well, my dad made out famously. When I was younger, we moved out to Geauga County. And then all of a sudden they started busing and they did the white flight. And automatically the prices, zoomed up. They bought the house for 44. They sold it for like 120. Like 15 years later.
I knew a real estate guy who gave me the paperwork. I don't think I have it anymore. Of how much real estate went down in value in Cleveland when they started busing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was something like an average of 15% or something like that.
We moved about a year or two before they started the white flight. And all of a sudden all these folks were moving out there, And it was country folk. We were just kind of standing and staring, going, what are these folks doing here?
I thought it was interesting, all the flight to places like Medina County.
Ah, okay.
I mean, that's a long drive if you live in Medina and you work downtown. That's a long drive. What's really amazing is I knew a guy that worked as a, I don't know what exactly, salesman for new houses. He would show you the floor plans and all that sort of thing and close the deal. Then the builder would come in, and he worked for the builder.
Right.
And he was doing gangbuster business, and I thought, boy, oh boy, there's got to be, truly, as I've been saying for a long time, the haves and the have-nots around here, because I cannot afford to go buy and build, have a brand new house built. Can you? Right. These people were dropping $220,000, $190,000, no big deal. And I thought, $190,000 could pay off my house 3 times over. 4 times.
Well, these are the people that vote for one of the. Getting back to what we were talking about, we really got off topic, didn't we?
Well, we're all over the board.
But what should happen? Like I said, these two parties, Democrats and Republicans, should get together.
See, this is the beauty of talk radio when it all comes back around to where we started from.
There we go.
But yeah,
actually, I stole this from a guy who I think is a real weenie, except in this one book. What's his name? Michael Moore, Bowling for Columbine.
Yes, yeah.
He wrote a book called Stupid White Men.
So he's suggesting we have the Republicrats.
Yeah.
And
just another party would develop, and it would be a party for the people. That's like, God, that makes a lot of sense.
I've talked to a lot of people who they said they really feel that it's time for some sort of a revolution because taxes keep going up. And
I've heard that for years, Rick.
I said Jefferson's been saying, said that 20 years. We're supposed to have a revolution every 20 years. We've got politicians that have been in office twice that long. The same ones. You know what I mean? We don't need any more Strom Thurmans. We don't need people to be career politicians. They need to get in and serve and get out and go back to the private sector. And careful what you think about Ralph Nader, too, because he's a millionaire.
I know.
He played the stock market and never bought any new shoes, so he saved a lot of money on suits and stuff.
Yes, he did.
All right.
All right, you take it easy, Rick.
Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye. Mark, another Mark. You're on the air.
Hey, another chef. You know, Rick, I got to add my 2 cents in on behalf, if I could save one more on the trouble. They ought to put warning labels on them chafing dishes because they are warmers. They're not cookery, okay? So, but real fast, you know, people don't let your stuff sit out for any longer than 4 hours or it's pretty much toast. It's garbage. And when in doubt, bring everything back up to 165 degrees. And you'll probably be pretty well safe at that point. But my point is, you ought to have a copy of this or two on your future bathroom visits. This is Farron in our one-horse paper here, but he's got grizzly local legends. Now, he's covering from the 1800s on, and I've been born and raised in this town all my life, so I know a lot of my own stuff. You know, he's talking about people that were entombed, like in the building of the Terminal Tower.
Well, there were a set of 3 books out by a local author named John Stark Bellamy.
Oh, that's the guy, man. You could burn a quick 3 hours up on your show just swapping tales and that. Like, I know, I won't mention names, you know, personal tragedies that happened down at the mills or like coils rolling off of freight cars that actually crushed human beings, like at Ford plant, and here's one you could relate to: a couple fireball crashes down at the old Quigley. That was like Dead Man's Curve. You know,
I saw one, and speaking of the other things, I've been told that what they do is if someone dies at the mill or the Ford plant, they come in with an ambulance, take them away off the property, and then pronounce them dead. They're never pronounced dead on the property because then that way Ford or the steel mill or somebody would be held liable and accountable, and then the widow would sue or whatever.
Oh, excellent point there. Yeah, I mean, I personally know one guy. He was an eyewitness to one of them accounts, and he like quit within the next week or so, and he ended up opening up a bar. You know, that was before there was a lot of automation, granted, you know, and robots and this and that and forklifts. I mean, these guys were probably hauling it off, you know, bare knuckle, you know, hand over fist style.
Oh, there were some stories. I've got those books, and one of them is called The Corpse in the Cellar.
Oh, yeah. He's got something that pertains to the attic, and, you know, he's talked about some grisly murder on a lawyer and that. And, you know, to this day, I walk downtown. If I have any business, I cannot step on, like, one of them plates, like on the public sidewalk, ever since that one dude got fried.
Yep, I remember that. And you know what's funny? I do the same thing. When I see those electrical plates, I think, well, gee, maybe it's charged, and don't get anywhere near it, because you could be standing there being electrocuted and screaming for help, and no one can get anywhere near you, or they'll get electrocuted too.
I know, I feel better. It's not just silly superstition. I figure if I survive this long, man, I ain't going out this way, but...
Yeah, well, you know, that's funny, because if you think about, I don't know, you put things in perspective, and you think about, you know, is there a grand plan, like Calvinists think, where when you're born, your life's all planned out? Well, if that's the case, gee, who wants to go out that way?
I don't know, Rick, but yeah, it'd be kind of cool if you could get that guy out. And hey, if Norm's listening, I want to know about the gas prices, and you can set the people up on that one.
Okay, Mark, thanks.
Okay, bye.
I'll tell you what, after the break, I'll tell you why I did not have the author on. How about that? That's a tease. More of the program after these important words on the big one.
Gilmour.
The old thing was Run, Jesse, Run.
Yeah.
The new one is Pull Out, Jesse, Pull Out.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Yeah, well, Jesse didn't run, did he? This was interesting. Let me see if I can find that story about John Kerry in church. Quoting the Bible to question President Bush's claim to be a compassionate conservative. Campaigned from the pulpit at New Northside Baptist Church in St. Louis today, told worshipers, the scriptures say, what does it profit, my brother, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? He said, when we look at what's happening in America today, where are the works of compassion? Noted that 3 million jobs have been lost since President Bush took office. Kerry's Roman Catholic chosen to ignore the Pope's directive that Catholic politicians do all they can to stop abortion. In an interview with Time magazine, Kerry said, I don't tell church officials what to do, and church officials shouldn't tell American politicians what to do in the context of our public life. Well, he's an awful preachy so-and-so, isn't he? Where was his compassion during the Vietnam War? He waited until he got back and then changed everything. Speaking of Vietnam, John Gotti was a no-show for his 1963 induction into the military. The induction date, November 22nd, the day Kennedy was shot. Newly released FBI documents provide a glimpse into the once mighty Gambino crime family he led. He didn't think he had to go because he had 2 kids and a wife and had been arrested for car theft. And he finally died behind bars in 2002. Just thought you'd find that interesting. An interesting little tidbit. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 chief meteorologist Mark Nolan. Tonight, some rain overnight with a low of 46. Currently 61 degrees in Cleveland, 61. Well, we want to put you on a new bike. How about a 2004 Victory Vegas model motorcycle valued at more than $15,000? The Victory's got a 92 cubic inch Freedom V-twin, electronic fuel injection, named Best Cruiser by Motorcyclist Magazine. The big one's Road to Victory motorcycle giveaway starts tomorrow here on News Radio, WTAM 1100. Rachel, you're on the air.
Hi.
Howdy.
So
you called about chafing dishes?
Yes.
I was saying earlier, for those just tuning in, I think I got food poisoning from eating food out of a chafing dish they didn't get it hot enough first.
You probably did, because all meat, or most meat rather, should be cooked to 160 degrees or greater, and if you have that in a warming dish and it drops below that temperature, you can get very sick very quickly from it.
Well, I think what it was it was cooked the night before and then refrigerated, and then the kitchen help didn't reheat it to 160. It was already cooked, but they just put the sterno underneath these things and let them warm it up through that 40 to 140 zone where apparently it can sit there like a petri dish and make bacteria.
Yeah, good.
So even if it's refrigerated, you got to get it back up to 160 and then put it in those dishes while they're hot?
Yeah.
And then those dishes, are those safe? I mean, has anybody, this has happened to me twice now. I'm thinking there's got to be millions of people that have gotten sick from chafing dishes that let the sterno burn out, don't know how to operate them, don't put a thermometer in there to check the temperature. I mean, there's got to be people, how many people go to weddings every year and come home and bleh?
Oh, yeah.
And then they think it's from the drink they had or whatever, It could be the food they ate.
And just carry around a meat thermometer.
Well, I think the kitchen help ought to have a meat thermometer and stick it in there. Either that or when you go to these places, eat before you go.
Yeah, I don't usually eat anything from those places. I mean, those things scare me.
Well, I've got to tell you, and I've eaten a lot of places. There's one place that's never made me sick, and that's any fast food restaurant. They seem like they got that down. Except, of course, what happened at, what was that, Chi-Chi's or something, where they had the problem with the onions? Okay.
Yeah, did you hear about Red Robin and the guy's thumb coming off in some guy's salad?
Yeah, I heard about the thumb tip in the salad.
Yeah.
I had my own story about Red Robin, was that, when they went smoke-free, they should have put big signs up saying, yay, look at us, we're smoke-free, instead of how many people that went in there, like me, ordered food, went to light up a cigarette, and then are told they can't. And, if I were not a nice person, I would have just got up and walked out and let them eat the food. Because to me, it was like, tell me before you go make the big switch, and I just won't come in.
Right.
Go to some of them places, and like Ruby Tuesday, I've heard that employees that work there have to actually walk off the property, out of the parking lot, to go have a cigarette. They can't even be on the property. So go figure.
What's horrible is, like, Bennigan has this teeny tiny little room with, like, a shut door that they put you in, if you smoke.
Oh, I don't like that at all. In fact, did you hear in Ireland that finally passed no smoking in any pubs? Well, we want our cigarettes. Damn it. That's a good way to kill the bar business in good old Ireland, isn't it? More of the program after these important words and coverage of what in the world's happening. Oh, and I still got to tell you why I never had John Stark Bellamy on. I'm Rick Gilmour, the thinking man's friend, and this is Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
Rick Gilmour.
You're a big hot stud.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
This just off the wires. Sad story. Talk about stupidity. 1-year-old girl's been killed in her Detroit home in what police believe was a shotgun accident. A woman who lived with the girl and her mother says she found the gun while cleaning the house and wanted to see if it was loaded. To find out, she told investigators, she operated a slide that dropped a round into the chamber, and at the same time, her finger was on the trigger and the gun went off. Now, I mean, a sad story, but isn't that dumb? I mean, that's really no way to handle a firearm. I mean, if you're out there and you find a shotgun in your house, maybe you ought to try leaving it alone. If you don't know anything about firearms, don't touch it. Presidential advisor Karen Hughes said she's sickened by recent claims that the Bush administration had been lax against Al-Qaeda. Well. 10 Minutes from Normal is about Hughes balancing her professional and family life. That's her new book. She calls it the Washington blame game. Writes that the administration weighed every option before going to war in Iraq. Book release comes nearly 2 years after Hughes traded her pressure cooker days at the White House for, I don't know what. Oh, it says a life in Austin, Texas. Is there such a thing? I really don't know what goes on in Austin. Maybe I'm missing out. And this story was interesting. From Hermitage, Pennsylvania, a woman kept getting phone calls between midnight and 3 a.m., so she called the phone company and had them track down the phone number to a phone booth. The woman had caller ID, so they traced it to a phone booth about 2 miles away. Then the phone company, at her request, forwarded the calls on Friday to her cell phone. And the woman and 3 of her cousins, this is interesting. The woman and 3 of her cousins staked out the phone booth, and around 1:30 in the morning, a former neighbor arrived to make a call, and the woman's cell phone rang. Family members kept the guy there until the cops arrived. Fred Marini, 43, charged with harassment and stalking. According to the story here, this is how far the Post-Gazette goes in Pennsylvania. Marini has an unlisted phone number and could not be reached for comment. Can't you find out? Can't you get an address? Wouldn't that be easier? Go to the guy's house and actually knock on the door. Dick from Dayton, you're on the air.
Rick, how you doing?
Oh, just splendid-ferous.
Well, I got something I want to tell you.
That you really like me and you love Clear Channel and you're going to send me a card and...
No.
Oh, something new?
No, I just wanted to do we played in the group last night. You know, my family's from Wellington, and my cousin played, and we're all musically inclined. Larry, Lorraine, Medina. But I just wanted to tell you, I want to do a song for you, Teddy, and Edmund. It's called Deliverance.
Well, you're going to do it now on the phone?
No. I dedicated that to you, and we jammed till 2 in the morning last night.
Deliverance?
Deliverance.
Couldn't you think of something more, I don't know, way down upon the Swanee River? I mean, Deliverance just makes you think of that one special love scene in the movie.
Well, this was like the Dueling Banjos. Remember that?
Sure. It's your turn.
I'm telling you, Rick, these people...
Your turn.
I got a card.
Dick, I started. Me.
Rick, I'm going to go nationwide, and I'm going to have you be my producer, because I love music.
It's like when they take one of those nationwide polls.
Right.
Big guy.
All of us were good.
Yeah. Well, there
banjo, mandolin, and a couple of the Clear Channel stations played some tapes on me.
And do you have is it like a jug band? Do you have somebody?
No, it's called, I'll send you guys up to Ray, Kettering Banjo Society.
I don't think that would work with a jug, would it?
There it is.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, remember the retard kid in the movie? Remember where did they find that goofy-looking character?
Oh, I don't know.
And just think about where he is now.
I know.
He's playing with Dick from Dayton.
Dick from Dayton.
Yeah. Secretly, he's had plastic surgery and replaced one of your relatives like a doppelganger.
Doppelganger.
Yeah, like dueling ghosts.
You got to come down here sometime. It's on me, buddy.
Do I have to?
Yes, you do. Because I'll show you a good time, you and the whole crew.
All right, we'll all come down. We'll load up the pickup.
Okay, I'll see you, Rick.
All right, see you later.
See you later.
Now, I think you need to turn up Deliverance after that phone call. We need more Deliverance after. I didn't realize that was somewhere south of the Dayton-Dixon line. Interesting, huh? Oh, where was this other story I wanted to read you about? Not the John Kerry Bible story. This one. What do you think about this? Undercover police in Grand Rapids were sent to monitor anti-war meetings and rallies when opposition to the war in Iraq began to mount last year. How is that for America with a K? Spying's been confirmed by the police chief in an interview. He said police had reason for heightened concern because 12 people had been arrested at a January 2003 demonstration protesting an appearance by President Bush. 12 people. And then they're monitoring anti-war protests. Officers were assigned to the demonstrations because authorities had received information that activities planned were illegal, such as blocking downtown traffic. Gee, let me ask you a question. What happens when the president comes to town? He blocks downtown traffic. I guess what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. I remember when our radio station was not in the cultural void of Independence, Ohio, we had a caller off air want to know, why do I start the program with that statement? Let me ask you a question. Is there any culture in Independence, Ohio? Maybe the big fancy McDonald's down there, down the road. We got a two-story out here. And they even got linen and china on the tables and all that. Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. You had a cell phone?
Yeah, I was watching Deliverance, and I was surprised to find out that the retarded kid was actually Carville.
James Carville.
Yeah.
They sort of resemble each other.
I mean, that's what he became, so there's no more wondering.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's all I had for you.
All right. Well, thanks for checking in, Tiger. See, now it's written in stone. Some guy called a talk radio program and said that little kid grew up to be James Carville. Wager on the big one.
Rick.
Yeah.
All right, man, can you give us a break down here in Georgia?
Pardon me?
I said, can you give us a break down here in the South?
Well, where are you from?
I'm from Georgia.
Which part of Georgia, northern or southern?
Northern.
Now, I heard in northern Georgia, people have refrigerators on their front porches.
Well, a little bit farther north of where I live, it gets pretty damn hillbilly. I'll give you that much.
Okay, you got Georgia red clay where you're at?
Oh, I got all over the state, partner.
Yeah, well, I'm not being down on any particular southern state. I said I like North Carolina.
Well, I was hoping you'd give us a break there, partner. I mean, you've been railing on us all day,
You sound like that guy from King of the Hill.
Yeah, I guess, what's the guy that talks real fast, and then my buddy, he's the other guy wears the orange hat. Two of us get together. My wife, she can't stand it. She said we sound just like a TV show.
Yeah, it sounds just like King of the Hill. You're that guy that drives the race car that they put into the quarry.
Yeah, that's right. That's the man. Yeah. If I get to talking too fast, and that's what people say. You're like a boom man, blue dang dang dang, man.
What he said. All right, well, I'll see what Yeah, what?
On that cigarettes, you don't have to buy a ticket. You just go in there. They got the vendor tents out there at the race, and you just go in there with your pack of cigarettes before the race starts, and you can get them. All that stuff's on the outside of the track, so you don't have to actually go to the race. You want your free cart in there, partner.
Okay. But, you know what? You need an interpreter.
Huh?
What? You need an interpreter.
I need to slow down for you.
No, what I'm saying is, can everybody understand you down south?
Nah, most people give me a second look. Now, my biggest problem is I talk faster, too fast.
I don't think you're talking too fast, but you have a heavy accent.
Well, that's one of the, I guess they have effects of driving trucks as long as I've been driving. You just draw so much on the CB, it just fell over into my regular talk.
That's it. You sound like them truck drivers on the CB that no one can understand. You have a language all your own. It's like secret stuff, and if you're not a truck driver, you're not in the secret club.
Yeah, I used to train guys, And I'd be talking on the radio, and they'd be sitting over beside me. You know, they never driven before, and they'd be looking at me like, you know, you've been there for 30 minutes having a conversation. They'd finally look at you and say, what the hell are y'all talking about? They hadn't gotten the first word, but...
10-4. And I understand that you're not supposed to say good buddy.
No, let's work in the rest here, I guess.
What he said. All right, well, Wade, I appreciate the phone call.
All right, bye. Enjoy your show, huh?
All right, talk to you later.
Bye, buddy.
All right, what did he say? I'm not completely sure if I got all of it. Stop. Good buddy.
Gilmour.
What? Stop. Who is it? That's my dog.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
Yeah, my dog's starting to get flabby. I said, I walk the dog, you know, out to the backyard so it can do its business. I said, well, maybe you should take the dog around the block. I said, well, I don't walk around the block, and I'm not getting flabby. What's going on here? I'm not feeding the dog anymore. I mean, I still feed her. I'm not feeding her more food. They said, well, maybe you need to run. Run the dog. I said, I smoke 2 packages of cigarettes a day. I'm not running anywhere unless, you know, there's a fire someplace. Except for the time there was an earthquake, I was in a house. They had an earthquake here in Cleveland, and it rattled all the dishes in the cupboards. And I thought, I better get out of here. Maybe go stand in a sturdy doorway. Something like that. So I don't know, maybe Stella's just going to have to get used to being fat. Maybe she likes being fat. I mean, you know, it's not like she's fixed, so it's not like she's out there trying to attract other dogs. Maybe they don't care if she's fat. Well, maybe I switch the dog to oatmeal or something. I don't know, there's some kind of a dog diet out there. Just, maybe it's old age. You know, when I got her, she was taught. Not like in school. I mean, T-A-U-T. Now she's got that big scruffy skin thing going on under her chin. Or maybe it's just the hair. You know, maybe I need to go shave the dog. See how flabby she looks with no coat. Pressing issues like that. This is more pressing. Precious. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 Chief Meteorologist Mark Nolan tonight. Rain showers possible with a low of 46 tomorrow. Rain, thunder, 59 for a high. Let's look ahead, shall we? Sure. Tuesday, more rain on and off, 52 for a high. Currently 61 degrees in Cleveland, 61. 10 games to go. Get your complete Cavaliers coverage right here on the big one. Turn down the TV. Listen to Joe Tate as the Cavaliers are traveling to San Antonio. Take on the Spurs tomorrow night. Tip off at 8:30. You're home of the chosen one, us, News Radio, WTAM 1100. Terry, you're on the air.
Hey, Rick, what's going on?
Hey.
Long time no talk to.
Hey, there you go.
I moved to Indiana. You want to talk about hillbillies?
I have relatives in Indiana, but they're right over the border, so they didn't seem too bad.
Oh, Rick, I got to tell you, I moved here from Cleveland about a year ago.
You're not in Evansville, are you?
No, I'm pretty close to South Bend.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. I got to, you know, the one thing that I noticed out here is, you know, we buy things like clothes, and we buy cars, everybody has a pickup in their front yard on blocks, and they all spend money to make their exhausts louder.
Well, that I used to call West Virginia go fast. Like people would put chrome valve covers on and a chrome air cleaner lid. Like that's going to make the car perform any better.
That guy before was funnier than could be. I actually almost soiled myself. I swear to God.
Wow.
He actually told you that there were hillbillies up north and a little further north in
well,
Georgia.
There are.
Listen to that guy.
Well, I mean, you know, like I say, I've been to Indiana. I went there once. It was in the middle of July, about 15 years ago, for a Chrysler 300 show, and they had it in the infield at Indy. And you'd think that Indy would be a rather cosmopolitan area, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Right.
Hillbillies.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
It was 100 degrees out that day, and we were in a car with no air conditioning. So we stopped in a bar, and they had 3 Jenny Creams for $1 or something like that. And I was, wee doggies, you know. Every hillbilly in town was there for the bargain beer.
Have you ever gone to the, I think it's in Angola, the auto sale? You're a car guy. They sell antique autos. There's an auction in Angola. Route 69. It's actually real big.
That's Angola, Angola, Indiana.
Yeah.
And I've never been there.
You will see movie stars. You'll see. I mean, you will see the pick of the pick of the crop as far as old cars.
The cream of the crop. The pick of the litter. You're mixing your metaphors.
I'm sorry.
You know what's a metaphor? Cows. Kids for cows. So, yeah, well, you know, like I say, Indiana, Pennsylvania has their share of hillbillies. It's amazing. I have relatives in West Virginia that I don't know whether it was the casino that went in Wheeling or what, but those people seemed like they didn't seem like hillbillies.
No, it's worse. It's actually worse here. And I got to tell you, I think Pennsylvania is actually kind of cool. That's where I went to college, but different breed of hillbilly. However, you were talking about the election.
Yes.
I'm a bush hack. I can't help it.
Well,
I've been listening to you for as long as since I've moved. You guys are pretty much my touch from home. But I got to tell you, I'm a bush hack. I don't understand. I just don't see proof. I don't see. All I do is see a lot of people jamming talking points, and that's frankly, it's irritating.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have time tonight to read something that I got from one of the people here in the complex about President Bush's resume. It'd take me 5 minutes. I mean, I'll give you just a couple of. I'm the first president in U.S. history to enter office with a criminal record. I invaded and occupied 2 countries at a continuing cost of over $1 billion per week. I spent the U.S. surplus and effectively bankrupted the U.S. Treasury, shattered the record for the largest annual deficit in U.S. history, and it just goes on and on and on. And the problem is, what I brought up earlier, what I thought of was that this whole 2-party thing is just a diversion to keep us occupied while they're both stealing with both hands.
Well, I think you're right. I absolutely think you're right. And the thing that brought me to Indiana is what really. I work for a company that outsources.
All right.
The fact is those jobs that the liberals are claiming are lost. They're not lost. They're replaced. They're replaced with companies like mine. But the fact is I go to a school corporation, 100 people lose their jobs because they just outsource to me to manage and train these people. And
well, Terry, I got to go because that music means it's time. But plenty more time before the election. Thanks for checking in. Plenty more time before the election to keep talking about this. Plenty more time next time. Maybe I'll get around to reading President Bush's resume. It depends on which way you want to go, I guess. You know, which team do you want to vote for? Let's get preoccupied. Drudge Report coming up next. Rick Gilmour, Thinking Man's Friend, Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100. News Radio.